Today is February the 3rd, 2021. The past several days have been brutal. On Monday, heavy snowfall in the northeast of the country disrupts travel and vaccine rollout. Those who had vaccination appointments were canceled. And yesterday was Groundhog Day, and the bad news, we have 6 more weeks of this weather. Welcome to the award-winning Personal Computer Show. I'm Hank Key, and my colleague is Joe King. Do you know who has your personal data? Do you know how Facebook, Google, Amazon, and other big tech companies are using your personal data? Our website is pcradioshow.org. We are heard each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, live on prn.fm, streaming on the Internet. Podcast of the program is also available on prn.fm on the Internet. You can leave us a message with your question or comment at hank@pcradioshow.org. Jeff Bezos to step down as Amazon Chief Executive Officer. Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos will leave his post later this year, turning the helm over to the company's top cloud executive, Andy Jassy. Jassy joined Amazon in 1997 and has led Amazon's Web Services cloud team since its inception. Andy Jassy to take over in the third quarter. Jeff Bezos said he will stay engaged in important Amazon projects, but would also have more time to focus on the Bezos Earth Fund, his Blue Origin spaceship company, the Washington Post, and the Amazon Day One Fund. Jeff Bezos will leave his post later in the year, turning the helm over to the company's top cloud executive, Andy Jassy, according to the announcement, and Bezos will transition to the executive chairman of the board of Amazon. Bezos is age 57. He founded Amazon in 1994 and has since morphed the one-time online bookstore into a mega retailer with global reach in a slew of different categories, from gadgets to groceries to streaming. Amazon surpassed a $1 trillion market cap under Jeff Bezos' leadership in January of last year, and is now worth more than $1.6 trillion. The company had kept its succession plans quiet, though onlookers speculated that either Jassy or Jeff Wilke, who is the CEO of Amazon's worldwide consumer business, would be Bezos' eventual successor. In August, Amazon announced Wilke will retire in 2021, and Jassy, 53, will become CEO in the third quarter. Jassy joined Amazon in 1997 and has led Amazon's Web Services cloud team since its inception. AWS continues to drive much of Amazon's profit. Jeff Bezos said he was excited to announce that in the third quarter he will transition to executive chair of the Amazon board, and Andy Jassy will become CEO. He said in a letter to employees, "In the executive chair role, I intend to focus my energies and attention on new products and early initiatives." Andy is well known inside the company and has been at Amazon almost as long as I have. He will be an outstanding leader, and he has my full confidence. Jassy will need to guide the company through antitrust concerns once he takes the reins in October, after a 16-month investigation into competitive practices at big tech companies including Amazon. The House Judiciary Subcommittee on Antitrust concluded that Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Google enjoy monopoly power, and Amazon is also facing antitrust complaints in the European Union. How many computers were sold in 2020? In 2020, approximately 275.15 million PCs were shipped around the world. This is another year of increased shipments, reversing the decreasing trajectory since 2011, with the rise in 2020 fueled by the growing number of people working and learning from home during the coronavirus pandemic. The global PC market has become more consolidated, with HP, Lenovo, Dell, Apple, Asus, and Acer taking an increasing market share compared to other vendors. 2020 was the best year ever for Chromebook sales. Researchers from Canalys claim that hardware makers sold almost 31 million Chromebooks in 2020, the platform's best year ever. This platform's accounted for over 10% of all personal computers sold last year. Demand for Chromebooks is through the roof, with many countries being forced to accelerate their digital education plans in the wake of additional lockdowns. Schools and universities are clamoring for easy-to-deploy solutions, and Chromebook offerings for education are proving quite popular, especially in the United States and Western Europe. According to Canalys, hardware makers sold a record 11.2 million Chromebooks just in the fourth quarter of last year, the best ever quarter for that platform, and over 4 times the sales recorded in the year-ago quarter. And they sold almost 31 million Chromebooks in all of 2020. Chromebooks accounted for over 10% of all personal computers sold in 2020. HP was the top seller of Chromebooks, with 3.5 million units sold in the fourth quarter, and sales were up 235% year over year, and Lenovo was in second place with 2.8 million units sold, 1,766% growth. Acer and Dell both ship about 1.5 million units, and Samsung landed in fifth place with just over 1 million units sold, up 630%. Canalys says that demand for Chromebooks is expected to remain strong through 2021. Helping matters, the firm also claims that the platform has seen rising interest from outside of the education market, including consumers and traditional commercial customers that are seeking out Chromebooks to ensure affordable continuity of business or personal computing. Canalys also noted that the tablet market experienced big growth in 2020 as well, with sales hitting an all-time high of almost 53 million units in the fourth quarter and over 160 million units in all of 2020. The latter figure is 28% higher than in the prior year. Apple sold almost 20 million of those tablets, the best performance of iPad since 2014. Interesting that this is almost exactly mirrors the PC growth experience in 2020, where sales were higher than any years since 2015. Samsung's 9.9 million units, Amazon with 6.5 million, Lenovo with 5.6 million, and Huawei with 3.5 million units round out the top 5 of the tablet market. New Hampshire versus Massachusetts, as states clash over billions in work-from-home income taxes. New Hampshire is seeking to sue directly at the High Court to challenge the Massachusetts practice of taxing non-residents who used to work in the state but now do their jobs from home. The case could determine the fate of similar permanent tax laws in New York and 5 other states. New Jersey and Connecticut filed a brief backing New Hampshire, telling the court they are losing massive amounts to New York in violation of the Constitution. The stakes are especially high for New Jersey, which estimates that it would credit as much as $1.2 billion to its residents for income taxes paid to New York in the 12 months starting in March of 2020. Before the pandemic, more than 400,000 residents of New Jersey commuted to jobs in New York City. Not only does the issue directly impact so many states, but it is of staggering consequences to their fiscal well-being. New Jersey, Connecticut, Hawaii, and Iowa argued in court papers. Arkansas, Delaware, Nebraska, and Pennsylvania also tax non-residents for work they do from home for in-state employers. Connecticut also taxes non-residents who work from home, but only if their states do as well. The justices directed their request for advice Monday to the new acting Solicitor General, Elizabeth Preloga. If she follows the office's traditional practice, she will file a brief in time for the court to decide by the end of its term in late June how to handle the case. But in the meantime, how do you fill out your income tax? The case is hitting the Supreme Court amid the worst fiscal crisis in decades, with states facing deep deficits and the federal government offering little help. Massachusetts says it adopted its pandemic rule in April to maintain the status quo during the pandemic. The outbreak meant that people who once commuted into Boston were suddenly doing the same jobs from their homes in New Hampshire, Connecticut, or other neighboring states. Under the rule, Massachusetts businesses could simply continue withholding as before without need for continual changes due to fluctuating remote work circumstances over the course of the declared emergency. Massachusetts says it has no problem with other states taking the same steps, and it offers a tax credit for state residents who pay income taxes elsewhere. New Hampshire says Massachusetts is taxing work that happens entirely outside its borders, with no guarantee the practice will end when the pandemic is over. New Hampshire, which doesn't impose an income tax, says its neighbor is violating the Constitution's commerce and due process clauses. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has launched a direct attack on the defining feature of the state of New Hampshire's sovereignty. New Hampshire is invoking the Supreme Court's original jurisdiction, which lets states sue one another directly at the High Court when their sovereign interests are at stake. Under the court's long-standing practice, states seeking to sue are required to ask permission and to show they lack an alternative forum to press their case. For now, tax advisors aren't sure what to tell clients to do during this filing season, which officially starts on February the 12th. A Moody report found a favorable ruling for New Hampshire could be precedent-setting and impact states that levy an income tax on out-of-state workers employed by in-state companies and commute over state lines. And while Massachusetts would take a hit of about 4% of its tax revenue, New York could be in line for an even larger loss if a ruling is applied broadly to other states. New York State's reliance on non-resident income tax revenue accounts for, get this, 15% of the personal income tax and 7% of state operating revenue for the fiscal year that ended in 2018. That is not an insignificant percentage given the state's dire fiscal needs made worse by the pandemic and resulting economic recession. All told, New York collected $7 billion in tax revenue that year from non-resident taxpayers living in other states. The loss of even a portion of that revenue would compound the state's challenge as it faces large budget gaps because of the coronavirus effects and a fiscal imbalance in its Medicaid program. Working from home has, of course, already cost the state heavily over the last 10 months. Reduced commuting has meant fewer people paying sales tax to gas up their cars or paying train fare. Sales tax on the local level and mass transit revenue has plummeted as a result. New York is seeking billions of dollars in federal aid to shore up its revenue after the pandemic closed businesses and limited public gatherings, sending the state's economy into a deep freeze. Commuters in states like Connecticut and New Jersey would be among the main beneficiaries if the court ruled in favor of the non-resident workers. It's income tax return time. Filing is due April the 15th, 2021. If you ever prepared taxes by hand, you know what a time-consuming, confusing, and frustration process it can be, especially if your return requires filing multiple forms and schedules in addition to a 1040. You have to do all of your calculations yourself, and that's after finding the correct forms, schedules, and tax documents you need. Likewise, you have to transfer the correct figures from the correct documents onto the correct lines on the 1040. IRS Free File is a partnership between the IRS and the Free File Alliance, a group of industry-leading private sector tax preparation companies that have agreed to provide free commercial online tax preparation and electronic filing. Free File is just one way the IRS helps millions of taxpayers file their taxes for free. If you or your family's adjusted gross income is less than $72,000, you are eligible to use one of these brand name tools for free, directly from irs.gov. Free File is a public-private partnership between the IRS and many industry leaders who provide their brand name products for free. Once you make a selection, you will be redirected to the provider's website. What are the objectives of the Free File Agreement? Provide greater access to free online tax filing options, make tax filing and preparation easier, and reduce the burden on individual taxpayers, and increase growth of e-filing to reach the goal of the tax collection departments of having 80% of returns filed electronically. Why was the Free File Alliance formed? Well, back in November of 2001, the Office of Management and Budget, that's the OMB, Quicksilver Task Force established 24 e-government initiatives that were part of the President's management agenda. These initiatives were designed to improve government-to-government, government-to-business, and government-to-citizens electronic capabilities. One initiative, and the IRS was instructed to provide free and secure online tax return preparation and filing services to taxpayers. In accordance with this OMB objective, the IRS worked in partnership with the tax software industry to develop a solution. The result was the formation of the Free File Alliance. Why is IRS working in partnership with the private industry rather than providing its own software free to the public? That's a good question. Private industry with established expertise and experience in electronic tax preparation has a proven track record in providing the best technology and service available. So they came up with an agreement, and this latest agreement since its inception back in 2001 is the 8th. The agreement is 1 page in length. That's good. But the Memorandum of Understanding is 29 pages. It's no wonder why the vendors have different qualifications for free filing. The goal of the IRS was free filing if the adjusted gross income was less than $72,000. Well, that was simple. But in reality, here are some examples of the free filing qualifications based on the result of the Memorandum of Understanding. In TurboTax, it's free if the adjusted gross income is $39,000 or less. With the program FileYourTaxes.com, it's free if the age is 65 or younger. With Free Tax USA, it's free if the adjusted gross income is $39,000 or less. With TaxSlayer, it's free if the 51 or younger. And TaxAct is free if the adjusted gross income is $63,000 or less and the age is 56 or younger. But what is available is a tax prep program that is free in its 5th year of operation. It is not part of the Free File Agreement with the IRS because it is less than 5 years old. The name of the program? Credit Karma Tax. Credit Karma is primarily known as a credit monitoring website that allows users to view their TransUnion and Equifax credit scores for free. The company was acquired by Intuit just last month in December of 2020. And to satisfy the objections of the Justice Department, Credit Karma sold the tax preparation software to Square Inc. Credit Karma Tax is most notably the only software that is entirely free. Other companies' free edition versions don't apply to many tax filers who must then buy the company's higher tier products. Credit Karma, on the other hand, has just one tax software edition with no other tiers. While the price can't be beat, the software does have some drawbacks. If you do file with Credit Karma, you shouldn't expect the same experience you would have with a paid product. It is a do-it-yourself product. For one thing, Credit Karma Tax doesn't suit the needs of many people. It's not available in all states. It's missing some forms, and it doesn't offer professional specialized support. On the other hand, Credit Karma is available in most states, plus some states have the option of filing tax returns for free. And it supports more tax situations than many other free tax software options, such as income from a rental property, student loan interest, and income made as an independent contractor. Plus, if you have a simple return and are comfortable with do-it-yourself software, you might not need any support from a professional anyway. You can also use Credit Karma Tax to file your 1040 directly from your smartphone. Overall, Credit Karma Tax offers a free solution with more options than most free tax software products, but it has the same drawbacks. Credit Karma only offers free do-it-yourself tax filing products for both state and federal returns. It supports most IRS forms and schedules and provide e-filing in 40 states and the District of Columbia. Credit Karma Tax doesn't support a few forms, schedules, and tax situations, and you can't use it to file Montana state taxes. Within the product, members can enjoy features like Smart File, which streamlines the filing process by showing you the tax form you need for your situation. You can also upload your W-2 by taking a photo of it. Credit Karma's tax user's interface is intuitive, especially considering this is only the service's 5th annual iteration. It's simple and uses a pleasing combination of fonts and colors in a well-designed layout. Graphics are minimal, and some screens are absolutely unadorned, which probably contributes to its speedy screen changes. The vertical list of topics on the home page is arranged more or less the way you would work your way through the 1040 and its supporting documentation. No matter where you are on the site, you can click on the link in the upper right hand to slide out of the vertical panel on the right side of the screen that contains several housekeeping tasks, one of which is to return to the tax homepage directly. Once you finish a topic, your only option is to return to the tax homepage and work on another topic. You can also view PDF versions of all of the actual tax forms of which you entered information at any point in your journey. While Credit Karma Tax is an online program, printing out your return and mailing it in is an option. Credit Karma Tax also offers a mobile-first filing experience so you can file your taxes directly from your smartphone. Last year, I used Credit Karma Tax and TurboTax at the same time to prepare my income tax return. With TurboTax, I was able to enter each entry to the exact penny. With Credit Karma Tax, each data entry was rounded by the program to the nearest dollar. The difference in the net tax calculator was attributed to the rounding difference, which was very minimal. It was a few dollars. I electronically filed last year's return with Credit Karma Tax without any problems. Because it is an online program, it's a tax prep program absolutely free for PCs, Macs, Chromebooks, and Linux systems. Social media, Signal, and Telegram downloads surge. Facebook has dominated app-based messaging for the last 5 years with its homegrown messenger services and WhatsApp, which it bought in 2014. During this time, would-be rivals like Signal and Telegram have largely failed to break out beyond a niche group of privacy-based users. But in the last 6 months, all that has changed. The number of monthly downloads of Telegram and Signal has skyrocketed since October and in January surpassed the popular Facebook apps of Messenger and WhatsApp. The growth in downloads for Signal have been especially pronounced, from around 1.2 million a year ago to nearly 30 million by late January. While the last month has seen the upstarts eclipse Facebook's apps in terms of downloads, the number of people using Messenger and WhatsApps on a daily basis is still far higher. But it's changing. The precise reasons for Telegram's and Signal's sudden spike in popularity is unclear, though some have speculated it is in response to Facebook's recent decision to merge data from WhatsApp into the rest of the company's advertising operations. In the case of Signal, the app also received a boost from a January endorsement on Twitter from Tesla CEO Elon Musk. Both apps are known for their privacy features. These include the ability for users to have messages self-destruct upon receipt and end-to-end encryption, which means law enforcement can't obtain their contents. Signal also received a flurry of attention in 2017 at the start of the Trump administration amid reports many Capitol Hill staffers had begun using it to shield their communications. Its current spike has been much more significant. Telegram, which is especially popular for group chats and among cryptocurrency enthusiasts, likewise saw a surge in 2017 and has remained the more widely known of the two. One reason for the app's recent popularity, in addition to concerns over Facebook's privacy practices, may simply be network effects. As more users have signed on, they have spread words to their friends, leading to media attention and a further surge of users. As for how much the new apps pose as a threat to Facebook, Apptopia said that the rise of Signal and Telegram hasn't coincided with a significant decline in WhatsApp and Messenger. WhatsApp and Messenger are so large that they are still going to maintain those users that are not concerned with privacy and continue to attract those that don't feel strongly on the matter. Presenting Benjamin Rockwell and his IT Pro Series, Shadow IT in the COVID World.
This is Benjamin Rockwell, and now it's time to get down to business. It's time for us to talk about the world of the IT professional and you. Yes, sometimes we talk about one side or the other. This time it's a battle between the two. And I have 30 years of experience as an IT professional, and I have run into this particular situation. What is it? It's called shadow IT. Loosely defined, shadow IT is any bit of the computer realm, the technology realm, that is put into place and is used without the knowledge and oversight of the nerds, of the IT professionals or department, however you want to look at this. It's basically that whole idea of, I'm bringing this particular nerdy item along to work, and I'm going to use this to do my job better. Now, for years, there was a battle. Still is a battle. At times, there are companies out there which refuse to allow you to... I actually know of a company that refused to allow you to bring your own technology on premises. They went so far as to say, we issue iPhones. If you bring an Android phone on premises, that's a personal device, and it is verboten. It is, you're not allowed to use it, period. If we see it, we're going to presume you're doing personal stuff on business time, and you could get written up for it. They got particularly nasty about this. So, let me go back. I'm going to talk about a company I worked for about 20 years ago. Worked for this oil and gas exploration company. And one of the VPs, he contacted me for support on his Palm OS system, the Palm OS. This is back before BlackBerries were really big. This was the first viable PDA, personal digital assistant. This was the first viable pocket system that was a computer. Before then, there were others, but they weren't necessarily viable or popular or both. We did not officially support it. We did not officially support any of these various items that people would bring in. We didn't prohibit them. At that time, you really didn't connect it to the network, so it wasn't a threat. You could connect it to your system, but for the most part, we didn't really prevent that. The problem was that we did not have any official support policy for this. We didn't have anybody who was properly trained for this particular set of hardware and software. We didn't have anybody who was really a whiz kid at it, other than, well, I have one and I enjoy it and I have a great time with it. So you know what? I'll go ahead and I'll support it if my boss says so. And his response was, well, let me make a call real quick and we'll make sure this happens. Like, uh-oh, I'm going to be in trouble. Well, no, I wasn't in trouble. My boss said, do you know how to operate the system? Well, I've got one. All right, well, we're not going to officially support it, but you know what? He's big guy, let's take care of him. All right. So I did. And this is how a lot of the various items move from shadow IT realm into officially supported realm. How can I speak to this? Because that particular VP was not the last person to ask for support on the Palm OS systems. We continued to unofficially support it, and when I left, they could no longer support it. They didn't have anybody else who had one of these that could support it, and that was unfortunate for them, I'm sure. But this is one of the concerns that IT has. When we start supporting everything, when we start supporting all of the different printers that are out there and all of the different devices and all of the different things, well, it starts to get a little bit rough. For instance, I have a custom keyboard. Not a custom keyboard. I have my own keyboard that I provide for work. It has a bunch of macros in it. It has got all kinds of different controls for it, but it's all my own keyboard. Yes, I had to get permission and have somebody sign off on installing the special software for this keyboard. But I get to use it, and it works for me. And I have tons of productivity for that. And we talked about this on a previous episode when I talked about Progati, which is just incremental improvements. These little macros speed me along. COVID has really brought something new to the game, and that is not everybody is working from home, but a lot of people are. And that does mean that these days, information technology, your support departments are having to be a little bit more flexible when they are dealing with whatever printer you may have at home, whatever monitors, mouse, keyboards, stuff like that, because they cannot state that you have to stick with certain limitations. So COVID has changed things. It has made things quite a bit different, and I think this is going to shift everything we're dealing with. It's going to change a lot of where we're going with IT. It used to be very specific, and by being specific, they could save money on IT technicians. But now they're looking for guys and gals that are Jacks and Jills of all trades in the computer world. This is Benjamin Rockwell. Back to you, Hank.
Thank you, Benjamin. Facebook has an oversight board. It was proposed in November of 2018 by Mark Zuckerberg. The first members of the board were announced on May the 6th, 2020. The oversight board is a body that makes content moderation decisions on the social media platform Facebook, specifically about handling appeals for blocked or removed content. Facebook said the board members have lived in 27 countries and speak at least 29 languages, though a quarter of the group and 2 of the 4 co-chairs are from the United States, where the company is headquartered. The co-chairs who selected the other members jointly with Facebook are former U.S. Federal Circuit Judge and religious freedom expert Michael O'Connell, constitutional law expert Jamal Green, Colombian attorney Catalina Botero Marino, and former Danish Prime Minister Helle Thorning-Schmidt. Their mission statement is social media platforms allow people around the world to connect. While this creates many opportunities to unite, it also allows us to see things that divide. As outside experts and civic leaders, we embrace our responsibility to answer some of the most difficult questions around freedom of expression online, what to take down, what to leave up, and why. While we come from different backgrounds and cultures and have different opinions and beliefs, this diversity lies at the core of this important endeavor. We are committed to making principled, independent decisions that are binding on Facebook about important pieces of content and about issuing advisory opinions on Facebook's content policies. This oversight body of Facebook started their work on October the 22nd of last year. And in a very short period of time, they have issued some of their findings. What they said is that to ensure a global perspective, the Oversight Board includes members from a variety of cultural and professional backgrounds, reflecting the diversity of the Facebook community itself. These members were chosen because they are experienced at deliberating thoughtfully and collegially, skilled and marketing and explaining decisions based on a set of policies or principles, and familiar with digital content and governance. Special consideration was given to people who have demonstrated a proficiency in questions of online content moderation and a history of working with others on difficult problems toward a common goal. Facebook created the panel of experts to review the hardest calls the social network makes about what it does and does not allow users to post. Facebook Oversight Board last week directed the company to restore several posts that the social network had removed for breaking its rules on hate speech, harmful misinformation, and other matters. The decisions are the first rulings for the board, which Facebook created last year as a casting the final votes on the hardest calls the company makes about what it does and does not allow users to post. Facebook asked Oversight Board whether Trump's account should be restored now, and the rulings announced do not include the most high-profile and high-stakes case on the board's docket. Facebook's suspension of former President Donald Trump from both its namesake platform and Instagram, which the company owns. Facebook banned Trump early this month after a mob of his supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. The Trump case, which the board has 90 days to consider since receiving it last week, is seen as a crucial test of the panel's legitimacy. The board will begin taking public comment on it at this time. The board decisions are an important first glimpse into how the board seeks its governance role and indicated skepticism among members with how Facebook has communicated and enforced several key policies. Helle Thorning-Schmidt, a former Prime Minister of Denmark, who is one of the board's 4 co-chairs, told reporters on a conference call that we believe the board has ability to provide a critical independent check on how Facebook moderates content and to begin reshaping the company's policies over the long term. In its first batch of decisions, the board overturned Facebook's post removals in 4 of 5 cases. It overruled Facebook's removal of a post from a user in France, criticizing the government for withholding an alleged cure for COVID-19. Facebook had removed the post because it said it could lead to imminent harm, but the board said the user's comments were directed at opposing government policy. Facebook had not demonstrated the post would rise to the level of imminent harm, as required by its own rule in the community standards. The board said it also recommended that the company create a new policy specifically about health misinformation, consolidating and clarifying existing rules in one place. It overruled a case in which Facebook took down a post from a user in North America allegedly quoting Joseph Goebbels, a Nazi official on Facebook's list of dangerous individuals. The board found it was criticism, not a celebration of the attitude exemplified by the alleged Goebbels quote. Board Chair Michael McConnell, director of Stanford Law School's Constitutional Law Center, told reporters. In a case dealing with nudity, the board overturned the removal of an Instagram post promoting breast cancer awareness in Brazil that shows women's nipples. The board pointed out that Facebook's nudity rules include an exception for posts about breast cancer. Facebook restored the post back in December after the board announced it would be reviewing the case. McConnell says, I think this is a real good example of how the mere prospect of a board review has already begun to alter how Facebook acts. The Facebook also sounded the alarm that the Instagram post was initially removed by automated systems. The incorrect removal of this post indicates the lack of proper human oversight, which raises human rights concerns. It said in its decision, it recommended that Facebook tell users when their posts have been taken down by automated systems and that they can appeal those decisions to a person. The final two cases dealt with hate speech. In the first, the board overruled the removal of a post from Facebook user in Myanmar that Facebook said violated its rules against hate speech for disparaging Muslims as psychologically inferior. While the board found the post pejorative, taking into account the full context, it did not advocate hatred or intentionally incite any form of imminent harm, the board said in its decision. The board acknowledged the case was fraught because Facebook had been criticized for its role in the genocide of the country's Muslim minority. Muslim advocates, a civil rights group, slammed the ruling. Facebook's oversight board bent over backwards to excuse hate in Myanmar, a country where Facebook has been complicit in genocide against Muslims, said Eric Nang, a spokesman for the group. Instead of taking meaningful action to curb dangerous hate speech on the platform, Facebook punted responsibility to a third-party board that used laughable technicalities to protect anti-Muslim hate content that contributes to genocide. And then the board upheld Facebook's removal of another post for breaking hate speech rules. However, it said the company was right to remove the post that it used a slur against Azerbaijanis. The context in which the term was used made it clear it was meant to dehumanize its target. Facebook has said it will abide by the board's decision and has already reinstated the post the board said it shouldn't have come down. The board also issued a recommendation that Facebook be more transparent, including explaining to users whose posts are removed which rules they are violating and giving more clarity and definition for issues including health misinformation and dangerous individuals. Facebook has 30 days to respond to the board. Facebook's Vice President of Content Policy said in a blog post, "We believe that the board included some important suggestions that we will take to heart. Their recommendations will have a lasting impact on how we structure our policies." A Harvard Law School lecturer who studies online content moderation said the board's inaugural rulings are a true shot across the bow because they take aim not just at Facebook's handling of individual posts, but at its broader policies and enforcement. Now, the question is, how seriously will Facebook take those recommendations, and how openly will it engage with what the board said? The board is funded by Facebook, an independent trust, and made up of 20 experts around the world. They include specialists in law and human rights, a Nobel Peace Laureate from Yemen, and the vice president of the Libertarian Cato Institute, and several former journalists. Each case was reviewed by a group of 5 randomly selected members, with a final decision approved by the full board. Now, having read all this, it is an oversight board. But, heard on NPR, their headline news item was, Facebook Supreme Court orders social network to restore 4 posts in first rulings. The CNN headline was, Facebook Supreme Court just ruled against Facebook. And the venerable old lady from the New York Times headline was, Facebook invokes its Supreme Court. Washington Post headline was not all that different. Facebook's new Supreme Court overturns firm in first rulings. First of all, Facebook's oversight board is not a Supreme Court. And in all fairness to Facebook, they never refer to it as a Supreme Court. The mainstream media, by overstating and referring to it as a Supreme Court, without referencing it as being an oversight board, is misleading. With short headlines and reference to a Supreme Court, the public reading the headline news only and not reading the content of the article can be thoroughly misled. This is not a Supreme Court ruling. This is an oversight board that was funded by Facebook to handle how data or information should be moderated. Presenting Marty Winston, All Hands on Tech, Troubleshooting.
About a century ago, one of the first consumer electronic devices was the radio. It picked up broadcasts and played them on a speaker. The active technology that was inside it was vacuum tubes. and they were used in roles like amplifiers and modulators, actually demodulators. Vacuum tubes didn't live forever, so eventually the radio would stop working because one of them burned out. But which one? It might be none of them. It might be that an antenna wire came loose, or somebody bumped a knob, or it wasn't tuned in or not loud enough, or maybe the power plug came out of the wall, or maybe there was no power. A lot of things could go wrong, and when there was trouble, owners might easily become angry, even boiling mad. And, well, there may have been no method to their madness. There was a method that got involved in fixing things. That methodology was an analytical step-by-step process to isolate the fault. Is the radio getting power? Is the antenna connected? Are the controls where they should be? Have a quick look inside. Were all the tubes glowing? Vacuum tubes had filaments that glowed orange when they were working. That process got called troubleshooting. The radio repair trade emerged from it. Test gear improved, but it was always a process of starting from one end, figuring out what part is still working, then going to the next part to see if it's working or not, step by step. A process, a methodology, troubleshooting. As vacuum tube gear got more complicated through World War II and a decade or so beyond, the art of troubleshooting got more sophisticated. On the consumer side, TV sets were a lot more complicated than radios. On the commercial side, there were radar sets, TV cameras, aircraft navigation gear, and tons more. It wasn't just electronics, by the way. Similar techniques got used when repairing cars and their engines, or planes, or phone systems. Things only got a little more complicated by the 1960s as transistors became more common. Then came integrated circuits, which started bending the smart choices away from repairing to favor replacing. Office machines got designed around function boards, so replacements could involve part of the machine instead of the whole thing. It was all still troubleshooting. By the 1980s, troubleshooting was still being done on hardware, but now its techniques were becoming important to software. It picked up a second identity, debugging, but it's all part of the same family. Some entire something doesn't work. It's unlikely that everything about it has gone wrong, so figure out what it is. Initially, identify it broadly. Narrow it down. Close the net. Peg it. Deal with it. Sound familiar? That's a description of a lot of different activities and professions, like detective. But not just technology, not just law enforcement, medicine too. And behaviors, where psychotherapy gets to be more effective when psychoanalysis comes first, and politics, and sports. Have you ever wondered how much money gets spent helping golfers troubleshoot and fix their swings? Other skills also improve through troubleshooting. No musician is a virtuoso at birth, no matter how soon that talent develops, and there's no young virtuoso who doesn't get even better through practice and instruction. That combination, practice and instruction, is a common and widely underappreciated form of troubleshooting, too. So, what's the real point? It's a suggestion that almost anyone can benefit by learning to first recognize and then practice analytical thinking. Here's an admittedly tricky example. Remember those story problems from algebra class? A train that can travel 60 miles per hour leaves the station at midnight for a destination 1,200 miles away. When will it arrive? 1,200 miles, 60 miles an hour. Analytical thinking will tell you that math alone cannot give you the answer. Nobody said the train could do that speed for the entire trip. Nobody said that the track is all in good condition for that entire run. Nobody said it's a nonstop train. It might get there a few minutes after 8 p.m. or tomorrow or next week or never. The math alone doesn't provide enough information. What's missing? Something, nothing, everything? Questions like that are at the root of analytical thinking. And analytical thinking is at the root of every form of troubleshooting. back to the train. Imagine you're at its destination and it's 15 hours late. Why? What happened? Those may be easier questions. The best troubleshooting techniques are intrinsically methodical. Did it leave on time? What do the weather maps show about its route? Any reports of nasty weather or earthquakes or enemy attacks or alien invasions? Any tempting resorts along the route where they may have all stopped? Any way to track the locations of any of the passengers' mobile phones? Yeah, it's a lot like detective work, so how's that useful? Let's troubleshoot what the pandemic is doing to life at your house. Start with the little things like masks. Are you wearing them at home? Last October, the CDC studied homes where one person, adult or child, was diagnosed as infected. Within 5 days, 53% of everybody else in contact got infected. Recently, Dr. Fauci said to wear more layers. Does your mask have a place for a filter? Put in 2 instead of 1 and you're at 4 layers. Now, wear it, even at home. And here's another little trick. Turn on the bedroom ceiling fan, even on low. If you don't have one, put a small clamp or stand fan next to a sick person's bedside. Here's why, and you may have heard this here before. Every time an infected person exhales, there's live virus riding the droplets in their breath. Normally, those are still in the zone that their next breath will inhale. So, they reinfect themselves. That ups the virus loading. The infection gets more intense and lasts longer. It's bad on bad. But a downward airflow coming from above can help drive exhaled live virus out of that next breath zone. It also reduces the odds of a caregiver inhaling it. Yeah, that means we're treating people with virus as a malfunctioning system that troubleshooting might help fix. There's more on that subject next week. So next time, join us for a coronavirus self-defense class, something that may only interest 15 million Americans right now. That's the approximate number living with a coronavirus infection who have not yet recovered. Is that anyone you know? Until we all get shots, you'll want to be here lots.
Thank you, Marty. Public service announcements. Computer Club meetings in the New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut tri-state region. Most of the computer clubs have begun to schedule their general monthly meetings through teleconferencing. For updated information, visit the website of the Computer Club. The Westchester PC Users Group will have a presentation on electromagnetic radiation, Thursday, February the 4th. Meeting time is 7 p.m. via Zoom virtual meeting, and their website is wpcug.org. The New York Amateur Computer Club will have a presentation on speech recognition, Thursday, February the 11th. Meeting time is 7 p.m. via Zoom virtual meeting. The website is nyacc.org. The Brookdale Computer Users Group will have a presentation on current trends in personal technology, Thursday, February the 25th. Meeting time is 6:45 p.m. via Zoom virtual meeting, and their website is bcug.com. The Amateur Computer Group of New Jersey meets via Jitsi Meet, and their website is acgnj.org. Princeton PC Users Group meets via Zoom virtual meeting, and their website is ppcug-nj.apcug.org. And the Long Island Macintosh Users Group, they meet via Zoom, and their website is limac, that's limac.org. Our website is pcradioshow.org. We are heard each Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on prn.fm, streaming on the Internet. Podcasts of the program is available on prn.fm on the Internet. If you have any questions for us, just send me an email addressed to hank@pcradioshow.org. In the meantime, stay in touch and remember to do your regular backups. I'm Hank Key, and on behalf of Joe King, Michael Horowitz, Marty Winston, and Benjamin Rockwell, we thank you for listening. Stay safe and healthy. Until we meet again, same time, same station next week.